guys, welcome back for another Bachelorette recap, and we're gonna talk about last night's episode number 5. So of course, we pick up back where we left off last week, and we see Lee and Kenny step outside to have their little chat. So before Lee and Kenny can really get into it, it cuts to Rachel and Bryan. They're outside as well, off in another area, in a boat. They are sitting in a boat in the pitch black darkness of the night, having a little romantic chit chat. And of course, they have a little kiss as well. So that was kind of cute. Then it cuts back to Kenny and Lee. Now they're going in. He goes on about, I thought you were my friend. Then Kenny proceeds to say, you know, Lee, he's trying to push my buttons. He's trying to get me to fall for his act, and I'm not falling for it. You already did, Kenny. You fell right into Lee's trap. So now we go back to the end of the group date. Everybody is all gathered in the room, and Rachel gets to present a group rose to one of the guys. And of course, it ends up being Bryan. He gets the group date rose. They have a hug. Everything is beautiful. Then here comes Kenny. Kenny congratulates Bryan. You know, Bryan, you're a good dude. I'm happy for you. You know, it's nice to see a guy that's not a snake win. So Lee and Kenny start going back and forth because Lee is well aware that Kenny's taking digs at him with the comments he's making to Bryan. Lee, of course, as the master manipulator that he is, pushes all the right buttons to get Kenny to come out of character. Lee turns around and looks at everybody else and says, oh my gosh, he's being aggressive. So then Kenny, you know, kind of reels it in a little bit and says, you know what, Lee, if you think I'm being aggressive, I'm being too loud, you know what? I am going to whisper, so you can't accuse me of being aggressive. I'm going to say it in a whisper. Lee, you're a bitch. The other guys lose it. They cannot contain themselves. Okay, so now here comes one of the cringiest parts of any Bachelor or Bachelorette season that I've ever watched. Jack and Rachel's one-on-one date. Jack is an educated man. He's an attorney. He's also from Dallas. So they have that in common, and Rachel brought that up. And I kind of believe that was the whole point of her giving Jack a one-on-one, because she said, we're great on paper together. We're around the same age, same profession, we live in the same place. I don't know what Jack was thinking. He just went in for a kiss that it was very clear to me, and I'm sure to you guys watching, that Rachel was not interested in. And she even tells the man that she's sick. Rachel, come on, girl. You're not sick. Less than 24 hours ago, you were slobbing down Bryan, yet when she's with Jack, she feels the need to try to protect him from getting too close to her because she doesn't want him to get sick. So then now we go back to the house, and there's a little moment between Will and Lee that I thought was kind of interesting, because after Lee again uses the word aggressive to describe Kenny, Will kind of checks him a little bit and lets him know, you know, in this country, in the US of A, there has been a culture that, you know, has been very prevalent over the last several years when it comes to labeling black men aggressive and using that term as justification to lash out at black men because of their aggressive behavior. So now Rachel and Jack have their dinner portion of the date, and they're sitting down, they're talking, and Rachel pretty much lays it all on the line with Jack, tells him that she's not feeling him. Did you see the look on Jack's face when she told him that this was the end for them? Did you see that serial killer look? I was ready to throw hands. I was ready to jump through that TV screen and defend my girl Rachel, because Jack looked like he was about to buck on her. he really looked like he wanted to almost put his hands on her. He was mad. So we go back to the house. Rachel decides to cancel the cocktail party. She's not having it. She wants to go straight into the rose ceremony and move on. So we go into the rose ceremony and we have Iggy and Jonathan eliminated.
So disappointed.
Then after they're gone, Rachel announces that they're about to take off on another trip, and this time to Oslo, Norway. So they get to Norway and a one-on-one is about to begin, and it is with Bryan, of course, one of my favorites. So Bryan and Rachel go off on their one-on-one and they end up at the Olympic ski jump. And what they end up doing is rappelling down from the jump onto the ground. And Rachel's terrified, she's scared. Bryan is cool as a cucumber. He got this, he got her, everything's gonna be fine. They start to rappel down, and midway down, he asks her for a kiss. And she says no, she's not having it. All she's thinking about is, please let me just get down to the ground alive and in one piece. So he pulls her in. They have a little makeout session in midair. Very romantic. I loved every minute of it. It was beautiful. So we go back to the house where all the guys are, and there's a really interesting exchange between Eric and Anthony. So here goes Eric. You know, he's all about his different philosophies on who he thinks Rachel is and what she's doing and what her plans are for the whole experience. So he proceeds to let Anthony know that he is really not too sure whether or not Rachel is even into black guys, because he says, hey, you're the only one that has had a one-on-one with her. You know, she's all over all these other guys, non-black guys, but she really doesn't seem to be feeling any of the black guys in the house. And Anthony kind of shuts down that theory. He is, you know, very much giving Rachel the benefit of the doubt, telling Eric that, you know, she's just feeling everybody out and seeing, you know, where her attraction lies and what kind of vibe and connection she's having with everyone. But I thought that was really interesting that Eric just went there and said that he doesn't think Rachel is into black guys. From a viewer perspective, in this situation, I would have to agree. But that's not to say that Rachel, you know, in the real world is not attracted to black guys. She absolutely and obviously is. You know, she has only ever had serious relationships with black men. She has already said that she's never had a serious relationship with anyone from another race. I really don't even understand what Eric thinks Rachel should do. I mean, she was given the choices that she was given, and even though a lot of the black guys on the show are great stand-up guys, she just has not had any real serious connection with any of them. It is what it is. So now we go back to Rachel and Bryan's date. They're having dinner, and I really, really enjoyed this part of the show when they get kind of serious for a change. You know, no sucking face for now. They really just talked and got really into each other about their insecurities. And Bryan lets Rachel know that his last serious relationship was a couple years ago, and it was a 4-year long relationship. And he said, you know, anytime anything serious came up, I just brushed it aside. I didn't really take anything that was going on in the relationship seriously. And after that relationship ended, he kind of went into himself and said, you know what? I gotta stop playing around. I gotta really focus and find some meaning in my next relationship. So I thought that that really showcased Bryan's maturity. He is 37, he's the oldest guy in the house, and it shows in his maturity and how he's approached this whole situation. And that moment that they had at dinner really kind of solidified, you know, Bryan's position for me on the show, and really kind of made me put aside any reservations that I had about him, because from day one, they've been very physical and sexual with one another. And I kind of always had a little feeling in the back of my mind that he was giving me player vibes. But I think those days are over. I definitely think once upon a time he was a player, and he's over it. He is not about that life anymore, and he wants to get serious and find someone to spend the rest of his life with. And then the best part of the date comes, where Bryan confesses to Rachel that he's falling in love with her. So for me, that definitely solidifies Bryan's spot as one of the final four. He is definitely getting a hometown date. I'm sure Rachel can't wait to meet his family, see where he's from, and really get into that aspect of his life and his personality and what makes him who he is. So that was really sweet. And of course, he does end up getting a rose at the end of the date. Then we go back to the house, another date card arrives, and the names get read off, and everybody's name gets read except Lee and Kenny. So the group date ends up going to this facility where they play a game of handball, very, very popular European sport. The only thing that my eyes were focused on was Peter. Peter picking Rachel up into his arms and swinging her around right in the middle of the game. I have always loved how on every single group date that Peter's ever been on, he has never really cared about any of the activities or drama or any of the goings on that is happening on the group date. All that he ever cares about is talking to Rachel, spending time with her, and getting any opportunity that he can to be close to her, to touch her, to talk to her. And I just loved that little moment during the game. He didn't even wait until after the game was finished. During the actual game, he picks her up into his arms, and they have just that really little cute moment to themselves. Then she has a little sit down with Josiah. And Rachel is no fool. She makes it very clear that she is not too happy about the fact that Josiah seems to be a very smooth talker and knows how to really present himself well in the moment, but he has never shown any interest in finding out who Rachel is. He's never asked her any questions about herself. And she actually said, that the only things that he's ever said to her or talked to her about is probably what he's read about her. Rachel is no fool. I don't know who some of these guys think they're talking to, think they're dealing with. Rachel knows what's up. Then comes probably my #1 favorite part of the show, Rachel and Peter sitting down to have their little chit chat, which ends up being a 3.5 hour experience. They go outside into the hot tub. Peter's hands are all over her in that hot tub. They had a fantastic time in that hot tub. It was a very short little scene that they showed, but when he came back in to the house with the rest of the guys and they said, "Where the hell have you been for the last 3.5 hours?" I knew that him and Rachel had a good time. So Rachel comes in to meet the guys and gives out the group date rose to Will. Yes, Will. And here's poor Peter sitting over in the corner with a sad puppy dog face, thinking, what just happened? We just had an incredible romantic moment in the hot tub and Will gets the rose and not me. And I'm just thinking, Peter, relax. You will be in the final four. you will get your moment alone with Rachel. Have no fear. You have no fear of being eliminated. You're good. The thing that I was thinking about why Will ended up getting that rose is at this point, like I said before, Rachel is really not into these black guys. And I don't believe it has anything to do with the fact that they're black and she's not into black guys. She is, that's all she's ever dated, seriously, up to this point. Just this particular group of black men, she's just not into. And I think her giving Will the group date rose was just kind of throwing, you know, the black guy a bone. She just really wants to give the black guys on the show a chance. And that was kind of her way of, you know, throwing a little goodness, a little sunshine, you know, their way. So here comes the 2-on-1, Rachel, Kenny, and Lee. So they go to this little area where there's a table set up and some chairs so they can sit down and chit chat. So Rachel pulls Kenny aside first. They have their little chit chat. So Rachel and Lee now go off and have their little talk. And Lee proceeds to tell Rachel to her face this ridiculous, bold-faced lie about Kenny dragging him out of some van, putting his hands on him, being very aggressive, and wanting to beat him up, whatever, which we all know, I hope you guys know, is a complete lie, because we all know these producers of these reality shows love the drama. And if that had actually happened, it would have aired. That would have been put into the show. So Lee is a bold-faced liar. So now Rachel comes back to where Kenny is and says, Kenny, we need to have a talk again. Obviously, to get Kenny's side of the story. Why Rachel is even giving Lee any airtime at all, paying anything that Lee says any mind is beyond me. That's why I have to believe there are producers talking in her ear, telling her to continue to interact with Lee, to keep him on the show for drama and entertainment purposes. So that's the end of the episode. And of course, tonight, they're having another episode. It's a doubleheader this week. So look out for my review tomorrow, and we're gonna pick up where this episode left off and see what actually happens. The teaser at the end of this episode, of course, we saw Kenny with the fake blood. Thanks guys for watching this recap. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do give me a thumbs up if you did. And please come back tomorrow where I will be recapping episode number 6. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye.